So in this video, I want to talk about why I believe from the bottom of my heart that business and your ability to grow in business is a spiritual growth journey. There's nothing solely or purely physical about your business growth journey. And even if you are more of a secular thinker, you might even understand the idea that business is a selfless journey, or that business is a self-sacrificial journey. Maybe the word spiritual can be replaced with the concept of self-sacrificial in order for this video to kind of translate. But when I was first getting started in business, I was so focused on the tactics, and this is such a common theme for a lot of the beginners. They're so focused on, like, what do I do, where do I do it, how do I do it? They're not focused on the self-sacrificial element. And in this video, I just kind of want to have just a frank discussion. No, I don't really have any notes prepped. I don't really have anything. I'm not going to really do a whiteboard. And to be frank, if you have YouTube Premium, you can just, click the lock button on your phone or whatever and just listen to this in your pocket or something. This would be a good podcast to listen to. This is going to be a super entertaining video. And I'm not here to really entertain. Like, I'm here to just share what has actually worked for me. And that's what I think the role of this channel is. So one of the main things that's really worked for me is being able to see my business growth as a spiritual growth journey. And so what do I think, spiritual growth really means? I think it means self-sacrifice. That's the first one. I think it means placing the needs of others before my own. I think it means moving from scarcity to abundance in my thinking and in the way that I see the world. I think it means letting go of a lot of the sort of typical themes of how the world starts to make you think about yourself and the concept of the self. And so I'm just going to kind of, go kind of in circles on this topic, and hopefully it's still valuable for you, because I just didn't feel like I would be able to speak very genuinely if it was like prepared and if I had this presentation or whatever. So I'll start with the concept of like scarcity to abundance. And I'll kind of share this idea. There's this idea in scripture that, it's not the battles of the world that really hold us back, but it's the battles of the spirit that hold us back, and the battles of the unseen that really, force us into not becoming the men or the women that we desire to be in any area of life, and that includes business. And one of the areas in which I think the unseen can control us is our own desires, and is our own need for security and safety, which can then lead, in extreme examples, and I would say in the majority of examples, when people are security driven, they're also scarcity driven. They're also like preservation and self-preservation driven. And once I found that my desire for self-preservation can actually be more fully met through the means of earning higher and more potential and growth versus saving and not spending, that's when I realized, that I could actually have more security in growing than I could in having security in like kind of settling and bolting down. So it's almost like, you can have security by digging a hole in the ground and like having like a bombshell bunker, or like a bomb bunker, that nobody can come into. You've got food, you've got guns, you've got whatever you need in there. Or you can have security by building a massive kingdom and building a massive empire. Both are secure, but one gives you significantly more options. And so when I came to terms with that, and I started to realize that I was really hurting myself with my thinking, that's when I realized, like, holy cow, like I really need to start like actually working on growing my wealth. So that's one idea. Maybe you can just ruminate on that. There's no linear curve to this video. I don't think it's even going to rank that well on my channel. I don't think it's a topic that people are like super interested in, but I'm just throwing it out and seeing how it does. That's one idea. That often scarcity comes from like self-preservation, and people try to self-preserve in ways that don't actually serve them. So that's one. Another idea is that, in order to grow in business, you have to be like focused on the needs of others and consistently serving others. And it's actually a biological mismatch between our free will and our desire to grow our business and what our bodies want from us. And so a lot of, people talk about having a better mindset or like reprogramming your brain and these ideas. And that's like, it's one way of putting it. And I think to make it more real, I think it is literally our spirit, our free will, our soul coming in and redesigning the way that we think as people and kind of rebuilding our character from scratch. Because, a lot of people in our culture, you look at our culture, for the most part, it's pretty, our culture is pretty entitled, and like there's this idea of like, oh, we shouldn't have to work. Like there's literally I've heard of this like subreddit on Reddit called anti-work, and it's a bunch of people that are like anti-work. Like they think that the reason why we have to work is because other people are competing for the finite resources of the planet, and so we have to work to gain a piece of those resources. And as if it's like unfair that these other people have forced them into doing so, like the elites of the culture. And that's like a pretty common way of thinking. And you can't necessarily blame their logic. It makes a lot of sense if you don't necessarily dig into it. But the reality is the people who amass the most power and amass the most wealth can do it by two means. You can do it by means of fear, which is like, authoritarian government rule, or it's, like being a unjust king of your kingdom, for example, or being a dictator. Or you can gain power by building reciprocity and trust at scale. And truly, the only business owners that succeed are people that are able to build reciprocity and trust at scale. Like Amazon succeeds so massively because it serves the customer so intently, and it serves at a level that no software company no e-commerce company has ever seen. Like they literally dumped all of their profits for years into building infrastructure so that they could support 1 or 2 day shipping. And I don't think people really understand like what that's done to our thought process. Like people don't understand how valuable that is, that we can now have items not just from Amazon, but like other e-commerce platforms can use Amazon's fulfillment too. So then they can charge a fee for other companies to use their fulfillment process. So Amazon, basically, they're not just selling products, they're selling like the quickness at which products can arrive at a customer's door, which is an incredible cultural shift and a phenomenon that we've never seen before. And so they're so customer focused, which inherently is a self-sacrificial thing. I think people would say in the comments to say, well, yes, it's self-sacrificial, Trey, but also there's a lot of profit involved for them, and like there's a lot in it for them too. And my argument for that would be, yeah, of course there's stuff in it for them. Just like when you enter into a marriage, like there's things in it for you and there's things in it for them. Like, one of the, maybe you as the man, you bring the finances and you bring the stability and you bring the vision of the family and the home, and you bring the leadership, and the woman, she brings the beauty, she brings the nurturing, she brings, the sex to the table. I mean, you both do that, but that's one of the things that she does bring. And she brings, another voice of, reasoning, and so it's like you both bring things to the table. And so like, just like the customer brings one thing to the table and the business brings one thing to the table, in the same way, all of our relationships function like that. So as I've learned more about how humans behave, like I've gotten better and better with my business. Like and as I've self-sacrificed more and pushed more of my needs aside, like, if you look at my day, like I don't do anything all day that is like self-pleasuring. Like there's almost nothing I do. And it's because I'm so intent on other people's needs. And this is where, one of my mentors, his name is Rabbi Daniel Lapin, and he's got a book called Thou Shalt Prosper, and I'd highly recommend you read it. It talks about like the spiritual implications of money and like what money really means. And, money, if you just boil it down, it's just basically a way to like meet in the middle on value exchange. So that way, instead of me providing a service to you and you provide a service in return and we build our relationship that way, or maybe we just become friends and we enjoy each other's presence, instead of that form of an exchange, we have this, middle ground that we both recognize as valuable in the form of currency that we can exchange with. So, like my relationship with my girlfriend, I don't want that to be just a monetary exchange, obviously. I want to actually have a relationship with her, but so there's a transaction in that way. Like all relationships are transactional. And I think some people would say, oh, all relationships are transactional, Trade. That's clearly like not good to think, because then you're just trying to get things from other people. But no, it really, if you can say all relationships are transactional, but I'm going to be willing to give first, that's where you're going to find a lot of power. You're going to find a lot of power in accepting that all relationships are transactional, but then also being willing to be the first to give. And, we see this show up like in our program. Like we're so over the top ready to help you, and we want to serve you, and we love doing it, and we are, going to make sure that you get results. We're not going to let you abuse us and abuse our time, obviously, because we've got boundaries, healthy boundaries, but we so desire to see you win that you can feel that from day one. Same with like my relationship with my girlfriend. We've worked through a lot of stuff, and there's a lot of things that we've had to come to bring to light and like work through together. But it's always come back to like our relationship is in a good place when I'm willing to give, like my honest, full presence. Same with my business. Like my business will always grow. Sorry, I just got a text. My business will always grow when I'm giving it my full, like unfiltered presence. So it's a powerful, powerful idea that like your presence is the most valuable resource and asset you have. And that's why we talk so much about focus on our channel. That's why I talk so much about focus for our clients. Like, eliminating distractions, eliminating these things in your world. And this is a flesh versus spirit battle. This is truly how I see it. I believe our flesh is so neurotic and so focused on things that don't matter. And our spirit, our soul, is so much more focused on, the grand scheme and focused on what really matters eternally. And so if you can be able to listen to that voice, and in my eyes, if you can have a walk with God and really understand what it is that he's calling you to, then you will be more free and you'll be able to produce more and grow more as a business owner. So this is just kind of opening the topic of why I believe, running a business is a spiritual growth journey, because it truly has been for me. I think that business has grown me as a person as much as it's grown my bank account, because it's forced me to accept some things about myself and come to terms with some things that otherwise I may never have noticed or cared to fix. Because, let's say I have $1 million a year profit in mind. Well, there's going to be a resistance between where I started and there definitely has been, and it's forced me to solve some character issues that I have. Like for example, not being able to call out bad behavior in my clients or my team, not being able to lead in that way. Not being willing to fix the daily habits that hold me back, or letting envy into my thought process and envying other people's success, and therefore not being able to be creative because it takes so much energy to be envious. Or maybe, desiring money for the wrong reasons. Maybe I desire money simply so I can have comfort, as opposed to desiring money so that I can have abundance of lifestyle and abundance of, where I can take my world. And so, it's interesting how I think business teaches you so much so quick. And I genuinely believe that, business owners are some of the quickest growing people on the planet, because we're forced to learn so many truths about other humans that force us to come to terms with how people work. And I don't know about you, but everybody that I've found that is like $1 million net worth or more, especially when they've self-created it and earned it on their own, they're some of the most beautiful, kind, amazing, thoughtful people I've ever met, because they've had to learn how to spiritually grow in order to become worthy of the earnings that they've created. So there's nothing purely physical or material about money. I believe it has a physical and material element in that we can print it and hold it in our hands. But I think the way in which we produce it and create it is fully a spiritual pursuit. And you can see this purely just in the change that people go through, and going from, broke, maybe living at home, who knows what, to, a multi-million-dollar business owner. And I can see this in myself, where I was, I had such bad habits. And then I said, I'm going to make a lot of money. I want to make something out of myself. And little did I know what I was in for in terms of the spiritual growth that I experienced. So no real conclusion to this video. There's no real solid points. I just want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments, and I want to see if this message hits with you guys, because this is a message that I really believe to be true for my business and for even our clients. And I've seen it to be true for myself, that the more I've been willing to deny myself, pick up other people's burdens and solve them for them, give before I receive but still recognize transaction, and as well as that, the more I've been willing to grow in the areas of integrity and character that have been holding me back, the better I've gotten as a business owner every single time. And I'm not perfect. I'm so far from being done. There's so many areas that I need to work on and develop every single day. And I think that's really, where I want to stay. I want to stay in that place of recognizing where I have to grow. Because when I lose that, then I immediately plateau. And not only do I plateau, but I can't stay there for very long. Otherwise, I'm going to start to shrink pretty quickly. You're either growing or you're dying, right? There's no in between. There's no stagnancy. So anyway, this is why I believe business is a spiritual growth journey. Hopefully that kind of made sense. I hope I wasn't just kind of talking too out of my butt and not making a lot of sense. Hopefully this was valuable for you. I would love if you would let me know if it was in the comments. I'll probably make a longer video on this at some point, or even just share more on this as I go throughout my journey. But especially this month of November, and we're far enough into the video that this not a lot of people will hear this, but we've coming up on 90,000 this month, and it's the 11th of the month. So it's pretty incredible that we've, been able to bring in as much as we have. And I honestly think it's because we've been willing to sacrifice our flesh and sacrifice our biology and put everything on the line to serve other people, and to see them get the rewards that they desire for their lives and their business. So when you can serve others and genuinely desire change for others and give them the roadmap to doing it, like, incredible things start to happen for your life and for your business. So I think if I were to summarize, money isn't just physical, it's also spiritual, in that the pursuit of it and the pursuit of wealth causes, as a natural byproduct, spiritual growth in a person. So I inherently believe that the desire to pursue wealth is actually an honorable one, because it forces you to change. It forces you to grow so much. I believe that, recognizing the transactional nature of relationships is not just a given, but it's also like you have to accept it. Otherwise, you're going to be blind to people using you or people not respecting you, or you're going to be blind to opportunities for amazing relationships. But you have to be willing to give first. And then lastly, money isn't physical. We can print it, but it's not physical. I think I already said that, but the pursuit of wealth, essentially, it grows your character. It forces you to grow. And it's interesting to me, I think anybody that starts to show signs, once they've amassed some wealth, once they start to show some signs of not having that self-awareness anymore, not being willing to spiritually grow, like, you can almost guarantee, you just look at history, you can almost guarantee that they're on a track for losing all of it. There's examples of men in our culture, some billionaires that, like, make some really questionable personal life decisions, and we all see them. It's all over the place. But that said, it's pretty easy to see that either somebody else is going to have to come in and take leadership of their company, or they're going to have to really do a personal life purge again and get back to a state of growth. And that's just what business requires you to do, which is amazing. It's like the best accountability structure on the planet. It forces you to be growing. So anyway, hopefully this has been valuable. Just kind of speaking out my butt. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'll see you.